Hey y'all, how you doing? It's Umi Genevieve, placed in space constellations on LSD. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here with me. So I wanted to talk about an important transit that's coming up. We're in it right now. So it's the Uranus conjunct Jupiter. We're in it right now, but once we get to April 20th, it'll be exactly conjunct. Now, when we're looking at the Uranus conjunct Jupiter, Uranus, let's break it down. Let's separate it. Uranus is drastic change, change of laws, change of social norms. Also, it's an energy that wants to bring in different cultures, different backgrounds. Uranus opens up culture clashes. So that's the basis there. So where is there a culture clash that's about to happen, right? Now it's conjunct Jupiter. Now, what is Jupiter? Jupiter is our judicial system. It's getting close to the 10th house because it rules Sagittarius. So it's our laws, getting closer to the laws that we want to start lobbying. Jupiter is the judges. Jupiter is how we're going to integrate certain teachings, certain types of laws into the society. So drastic change, culture clash meets the judicial system, meets a certain system to help incorporate laws for the society, right? So let's keep it like that. Let's separate it. Cool. Now I want to break down different times Jupiter has conjunct Uranus. Now this is the closest it's been since 1941. Now, what happened in 1941? It's our presentation. 1941, the bomb of Pearl Harbor. Now, if you do a history check, what was Pearl Harbor about? Japan wanted to just give it as like a warning attack. A tragic one, but it was a warning attack because they wanted to get more they had political interest. They wanted to the US was helping Britain, so they wanted to separate that. And they also, which is the real reason, they wanted to really change the embargo policy, especially for oil. So I seen it that in 1941. So I'm like, okay, this transit, and especially since the US is really close, with trading with Asia. I'm like, this transit got to be about something with Asia. So I started with this, right? So I did some more research, looking at some more dates, right? So that was when it was in Taurus. So I went to 1997. Uranus was conjunct Jupiter as well, but it was a loose conjunction. It was in Aquarius. We had the Asian financial crisis. So in 1997, the Asian financial crisis, it gripped East and Southeast Asia until the late 90s. It started in South Korea, Indonesia, and Thailand. Those were the most affected. It also affected Hong Kong, Malaysia, and the Philippines, Singapore, Vietnam, but Asia. And that's what I want us to center, that this transit is about money. It's about our trade, our trading laws. Even right now in 2024, what has Trump said? He's like, Asia's our boss. China's our boss. That's even his big plan, is to help us find our balance between the US and Asia. So in 1997, it was an Asian financial crisis. Uranus conjunct Jupiter. It was in Aquarius, so again, a culture clash. And also, Asia is a big distributor of the world. It's a huge financial grounds for the world. So I kept going. Still want to keep following. Uranus conjunct Jupiter. Hopefully you can see me. Yep. 2011, a loose conjunction in Aries, Uranus conjunct Jupiter, pivot to Asia. So in 2011, if you guys remember, we had the Occupy Wall Street, we had the Japan auto crisis, we had the 2011 Beijing protests, and we also had the pivot to Asia. It was the Obama administration policies on foreign lands. So we're still centering this. And then when I say here, and I think about that Uranus energy with Jupiter, it's just really asking us as a collective, where has been the source of our resources, the source of our income, the source of our stability? Where does that need to change? Continue to do some more research because I want to really knock out my idea out. I really want to knock out this hypothesis, right? Out. So our next one. Now, this is not a Uranus conjunct Jupiter aspect, but it's Uranus enters Taurus. And that's 2018, 2019. Now, China said at that time it would discontinue its trade talks with Washington unless the trade sanctions were taken out, were taken off. Also, around 2018-19, remember that was the time when they found out about the early cases of COVID-19. I even put underneath here, is it a bioweapon attack? Around this time, around 2018-19, there was talks about Trump with China and just the overall basis of when they wanted to add on tariffs on anything that was 50 billion or up. Around this time, there was also a lot of decline in funding. We went through a government shutdown, another mini recession start, right? So this was a time too, if you look at 2018-19, where a lot of Asian nations were occupying American agriculture and farmland. Let's go to the next one. I'm still working with that Taurus because Taurus is money. Taurus is our foundations. Taurus is our values. Everything of what keeps us up. Everything that keeps us stable. All Taurus rules, all our accounts, all our financial circuits, all of that. One moment, I'm going to close the window. So 2022, North Node enters Taurus. What else is going on? The Chinese purchases of American farmland and agriculture, and we have some more Chinese protests. That Taurus energy does something. Want to keep going. (2024), where we're at right now, Uranus conjunct Jupiter, tariffs and trade deals with Asia. If you watch the news right now, Biden's trying to figure out what we're going to do with these electric cars. Biden's trying to figure out how we're going to really balance out U.S. and Asia. Trump is even making fun of him. Trump is even saying that if I get into office right now, I'll be able to handle China. We also have the TikTok talk, and where U.S. wants the TikTok, the Asian owners to find out what type of rules, regulations within that concept. And also, I'm also remember a couple last year when they had the Chinese balloon that was doing surveillance on the U.S. So Taurus energy seems to open that up, especially Uranus conjunct Jupiter opens it up in that basis there, but also this Taurus energy, our finances, our laws, who really is in control, who really owns. And there's been this It's like on YouTube where they're like, China owns a lot of our birth certificates. Trump is just telling, like a regular Gemini, just telling us the truth. And I believe he's right, that China got us, like Asia got us by the balls. Now I want to go back to when Uranus first came into Taurus. I'll go back to my presentation. Yes, here. Uranus comes into Taurus, and COVID starts. And it was in China. It was in a lab. It was supposedly connected to coronavirus, which they found in rats. That was in a lab. But at the same time, Trump just got elected. And Trump was already coming in like, we need to make sure we get the American dollar back. We need to make sure we get the American soil back on its game. And then boom, COVID happens. Shuts everything down. Shuts the economy down. Now, when I look at it, like how things have been playing out. Hi, Kim. How you doing? Hey, boo. When I look at everything that's been going down, this has to do with Asia. We're probably going to expect some more protests. Just a couple weeks ago, right, since we were going to have the eclipse in like Ohio, we're going to people to be able to view the eclipse in Ohio, Texas. Those are the places: Ohio, Texas, and Indiana. Indiana and Ohio were protesting. The locals were protesting because they were tired of Asian, like foreign countries occupying the farmland. They were doing like protests around there. Even if you go down to Detroit, after Detroit, like Michigan went down, especially after the auto crisis, the recession, Asia, the Chinese has occupied a lot of land down there. And I think as society, especially when in 2011, when we were having those protests, Occupy Wall Street, and even the protests in Beijing, there was even protests in 2022 about the enforce of the Asian government and how it just had so much control. It was a democracy. They were seeking some sort of democracy, both in 2011 and and also in 2022. So when I really think about it, I think of where we are realizing that there's really a few rulers that we probably don't own ourselves, that this can bring some uproar. This will bring some uproar. I feel that, like, how I'm looking at it based on what I'm researching, Trump might, or this presidential election may raise up, the talks about, Asia and how much control it has. Especially if Trump opens it up, because he's going to tell us the truth. He's going to tell us what's going on. I expect to see more protests, talks about where the dollar is going. That was another thing with China. Remember the BRICS? 2024, Uranus conjunct Jupiter. That's going to be the talks there for that. My apologies. So that's going to be the talks I see with this. This is a transit about our financial resources, more things shutting down, the change of food, agriculture, farmland. This is it. And maybe some of you started to really work with the earth, work with nature, agriculture around 2018, 19. A lot of restaurants closed down around that time. There was even a farming crisis around that time. We had a government shutdown, but we also remember during a little bit before COVID, you could only get 2 pieces of chicken, produce. You couldn't get too much produce. They had to do even there was almost a bankruptcy with farming and agriculture. So we're in that right now with this transit. It's going to bring protests. It's going to bring things where people want to go up to, Capitol Hill and let them know that we can't afford shit. We're not able to afford things. Pluto and Scorpio generation. This is very powerful for you, the millennials. and where you're going to be able to see this huge transfer of wealth. When I think about it, I don't know what president is going to be the best president. I don't know if there's ever going to be a best president. But there's just something about, because even if we look at them by signs, right? Scorpio, Biden, it's going to look at ways, even if it's evolved, unevolved, to look at ways where it can compromise, to look at ways where it doesn't lose, to look at ways where it doesn't really bring kind of wars. It's like Scorpios plays chess. It's a sly attacker, that. So you can look at it that way, where Biden might still try to negotiate. Trump doesn't want to negotiate. He wants to bring out truths. So it's not that but his truths can bring out, just like other Geminis, wars. Because you got to be able to like have tact in doing things. And that's what Biden probably is working on, the tact. So I don't really know what's the best, but I know that we are in a transit where people are realizing they cannot afford. We're in a transit where we're about to see protests, like I was speaking before, protests, uproars, where people are realizing we are not being able to survive. We can't even survive we can't even afford the necessities. Because look at the transit right now. Look at the grocery stores. You guys have seen the same thing when Uranus first came into Taurus. Produce was high. Everything was high. Gas was high. Rent was high. Everything was high. We're back. But we're back in a way where people want to fight. People want to protest. People want to talk about it. One part of the transit. Another part of the transit, this is going to be a great time for people to band together and build group economics. You cannot do this alone. Jupiter conjunct Uranus. Maybe some of you need to start start maybe certain types of crowdfunding, investments together. If you look back on transits around 2018-19, right before the pandemic, there was this thing calling, like, it was like a flower game where people would like put all their money together. Some people call it like a susu. It's like a flower where like people put in money. Each person puts in money every week so it can build. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was happening on social media where people were having online crowdfunding. Even since 2018-19, crowdfunding has been popular. From the subscriptions that we have going on to Patreon taking a full relaunch, rebranding, to just placements on social media where you can just been sending just with things where we could send hearts and stars, things where we can build group funding. This is going to be important. It started around 2018-19. We're back here. Even now, to buy land, to just really have financial power, we're going to have to do it through groups. Not alone. Uranus is not an energy of being alone. But we're back in this time. And both or one of them, but the presidential candidates, they're going to push this. What we can't afford, where we have inflation, where the society is at its wit's end. And they're going to use Asia maybe as a scapegoat, blame game. Whenever this energy aspects, that seems to be the focus. If we want to look at exact, when we exactly had a Uranus conjunct Jupiter, so speaking before 1941, in the same sign as well. Now, I'm not trying to fearmonger and say we're going to have another Pearl Harbor, but we're in a silent war right now. We've gone through many different generations of certain administrations allowing things to go, allowing things to be a little bit more loose, and then another presidential election. Now we got to tighten it up. But if Trump gets if Trump gets elected, I know this is going to be his focus. Remember when he first came in 2018, 2017, 18, that was his whole thing. We got to get everything back on the American soil. So starting Saturday and on, you're going to see these talks of how on American soil we cannot afford to live because a lot of our resources are going into foreign spaces. So I made this presentation. I'm like on fire right now. My phone on fire. Wasn't on fire all morning though. So I made this presentation just to show you, to look through the dates, to see how this energy manifests. And where it's really centering is the relationship between USA and other parts of the world as well, and Asia. China, to be specific. I could even give you another country like Nigeria, Africa. Chinese is running that shit. If we go to Nigeria, it's running that shit. So this transit's going to talk about, and this is not us versus China. No, this is not that. It's just a conversation about greed. Conversation about the exploitation of power. Also, with just talks about, especially if we're going to talk about finances and things of sort, underpaid workers, because this was also a transit that helped open up wage changes. So we're going to talk about that too. Where are we getting paid the right amount to even live? But this is going to center Asia and just the and I'm just going to say, let me say it straight, right? There's a theme with there's a reason why China's being able to be the force that it is, because it's able to produce mass production for cheap labor. But then that throws the whole other parts of the world off, because then they can't make money if we got this machine here that makes mass production for cheap. And that's going to be the talk. Trump talks about it all the time. So there's going to be this talk about we need to allocate more of the wealth. But they're going to center Asia. Even when we started the energy of BRICS, China was a force to group everyone together. Uranus conjunct Jupiter is about an uproar, attacks around finances, resources. Pearl Harbor's core was the fact that Japan wanted the US to back down. That might be the reason why, that may be one of the reasons why Trump gets elected. Because he talks about how he refuses to back down. I'm not on either side. But if we were to watch the news, US, Asia, just the world, within the Asian nations are just having these conversations. Even with Russia connecting with Asia, conversations. So this is a huge political transit. We are in a very important, monumental transit. So as we go further into the year, you'll see the talks about why we need to destabilize, in a way, a lot of these relationships with the Asian nations, so we can find our own independence. That's Trump's whole talk. That's really for a lot of spaces. Because if we're only working with one area that produces something on in a way where it's like cheap labor, things of sort, then how else does other entrepreneurs, how else does other business, how else does other nations make their money? So that's the talk. This is a talk about foreign policies. So I have this presentation up here just to give you the dates. This video is going to be up so you can look at the dates and research it yourself. 1941, 1997, 2011, 2022, 2024, and see where all those similarities are. Love is love, guys. You guys are the best. Thank you for being here with me. And I'll see you guys later. Bye, everyone.